going to tick off a bunch of women at one point, a bunch of Christian women at one point, talk way too much about immodest apparel. That's a serious subject, but maybe we turn to one that really affects men more so this time. I'm Zach. This is The Average Christian. It's a project simply about what it means to have a relationship with God, how to live this out daily in practical terms. Job said, amongst many other things in a much bigger context again, but this one stands out for the point of this video. In chapter 31 and verse 1, I have made a covenant with my eyes. How then could I gaze at a virgin? Interesting concept in a strong passage. I have made a covenant with my eyes. I have made a contract, a deal with my eyes that I will not look at another woman and lust. Yes, men, this one. The reason why we're begging you Christian women not to dress a certain way is because we want you to be right with God and because we don't need any more temptation than what's already out there. It's out of respect for you and us as well. But men, this time we're talking about lust. And it's one that people don't like to mention a lot. It's uncomfortable. It's like talking about sex within the congregation, and it may make you uncomfortable. That's not the goal here, but this is a real problem. And I'm not even really going to get into porn because that is a massive problem that not many people are talking about or want to talk about. It's affecting so many men, Christian men, even leaders and so forth. And it all comes back to, though, this lust. And Job had made a covenant with his eyes. And I wish I had time to get into talk about Joseph and Potiphar's wife who tried to seduce him, who I can only think was a very attractive woman given who she was married to. And that guy had a covenant with God and a covenant with Potiphar, and he decided he was not going to do wrong, and she threw herself at him, and he left his coat in her hands, and that turned out really badly for him. That's for another time. Dealing with lust. I've made a covenant with my eyes that I will not look. You can't help but see. And that's what's so difficult. I feel bad for our young guys these days trying to be Christians because what they're allowing to be worn at schools and so forth it's difficult. But a big part of this is on us to control what we look at. There are glances, and then there is that longing look. Jesus deals with that in Matthew chapter 5 and verse 28. But I say to you that everyone who looks at a woman with lustful intent, that's the way the ESV translated, everyone who looks at a woman with lustful intent has already committed adultery with her in his heart. That's not literally adultery. I know people try to use this for a variety of reasons. It's much like 1 John chapter 3, and I think around about verse 16, where it says, the one who hates his brother is a murderer. Not literally, and neither is one who lusts after a woman, literally an adulterer. Where do you think it starts? You and I have a covenant with God that women were not made to be objects. Women were not made for us to just look at and drool over and have these thoughts that are unholy that we have no business thinking about. They are more than that. It's so amazing how this in these days, feminism is so big and women's value is so big, and they still, many of them allow themselves to be sold as sex symbols, which is just objectifying them. And one of the reasons why the porn industry is so big, but it starts with lust. And most every male has difficulty in this area of just controlling our thoughts and not letting it run away and deciding we'll make a covenant with God first, and I'm going to make a covenant with my eyes, and I'm not going to degrade God. I'm not going to degrade myself. And if I'm married, I'm not going to degrade the relationship I have with my wife and degrade her. And I'm not going to degrade that beautiful creature that God made, who is much more valuable than just her looks. It's Peter in 1 Peter chapter 3 that talks about these adorning qualities of women that are of the heart, not of all this wearing of jewelry and all these other things. You know, there's nothing wrong with those things, but a woman's attractiveness should come from who she is. We're not letting her be that if we're just looking at these women and having these thoughts and just acting legitimately like animals. So men, let me encourage you to look at Job's example and make a covenant with God and your eyes not to gaze at a woman in this fashion. We want to thank you for being here to our YouTube watchers. If you haven't subscribed already, you can hit this button below. If you want to see the last video that was released, it's in this corner. What YouTube recommends is in this corner. Also, like this and share it with other people. For our podcast listeners, thank you for being here. Please subscribe, rate, and review. It helps us get the word out.